The Manifesto of Armando Iannucci by Benedict O'Keefe. Armando Iannucci is a 58-year-old Glaswegian satirist primarily known for his writing and directing of comedic parodies of real-life situations such as the death of Russian dictator Joseph Stalin in the 2017 film The Death of Stalin, as well as the fall of New Labour and the rise of the dysfunctional leadership that was the Cameron-Clegg coalition. This is his manifesto. Something that underpins all of Iannucci's work is its realism. Rather than take a slapstick or Bush-esque surrealist approach to comedy, Iannucci finds the awkward air of realism most fitting. Building on the previous tenet of realism, you'll find much of Iannucci's work takes place in a chaotic, bleak or depressing scenario, such as in the thick of it or Avenue 5. And these scenarios are not played for laughs. Instead, the comedy comes from how bleak the scenario is and the chaotic reactions of the people involved. Being accurate doesn't mean sacrificing comedy. Comedy can be found in the details. Later on there is a quote from Iannucci that describes a veil of falsehood placed between the actors and the audience when things on screen feel fake, and that is why in much of his work, detail is key to bringing the audience into the story. Here Iannucci is quoted saying that stories about paranoia are timeless. That is why you'll find so many of his iconic characters are in a constant state of panic, from Malcolm Tucker's paranoia about scandals leaking to the paranoia of living in Stalinist Russia, or Alan Partridge's paranoia that he is looked down upon by his co-workers in Iannucci's early work on Radio 4. Unlike some showrunners and directors, Iannucci will allow his cast the freedom to do what is needed with their characters to make them feel real, once again reiterating Iannucci's desire to have a realistic world for the audience to believe in. Russian General Zhukov didn't have a Yorkshire accent, but he also wasn't speaking in English, and so giving him an accent that fit his personality makes him feel more real. Another running theme throughout Iannucci's work is his dismantling of the deceptive idea of power that real-life figures use to oppress those around them. As someone whose father lived under Mussolini, Iannucci knows how power can be abused. Much of his work, such as Veep, The Thick of It, and Death of Stalin, work to show the chaotic and disorganized truth behind power, peeling back the curtain on these figures that would otherwise be seen as above people like you and me. These can even be seen in the character of Alan Partridge and the facade of power that comes with fame. The seventh tenet is something that occurs in much of Iannucci's work, creating a large roster of comedic characters, placing them in a helpless or paranoid scenario, with the comedy coming from watching them react and interact. From Death of Stalin, Avenue 5, Veep, and Alan Partridge Alpha Papa, these are all chaotic scenarios focused on a group of individuals and their panicked reactions and all the comedy that ensues. Iannucci's work in Veep and The Thick of It deliberately stayed away from defining any character's political allegiance. Their failings and successes were that of their situation or their panicked reaction, rather than that of a political statement about the ability of Republicans or Conservatives. Iannucci aimed to tell the story of how politics worked and the chaos behind the power, rather than send a political message, although many headlines in the shows, such as in The Thick of It, a coalition of two political parties, no political message was intended. Iannucci has always been vocal about his political opinions and his fascination with what goes on behind the thin veil of power, so it's no wonder that many of his stories focus on dismantling any falsehoods that those in charge know what they're doing. In fact, he's so passionate that he has at times considered becoming a politician, but being discouraged by the idea that he had to align himself with a strict set of political beliefs. Through thorough research, Iannucci manages to create believable and worryingly accurate worlds in which his narratives take place. It is only through his research into how Whitehall worked that Iannucci found key information that went on to become hallmarks of the show. Despite his personal fascinations with politics and power, Iannucci learned much of what goes on behind the scenes of Parliament is panic and quarrel. Behind party colours and policies, politicians from all sides function nearly identically. Ministers have no power, being restricted financially and having the overlooking threat of higher-ups, who themselves are restrained by the court of public opinion and the media vultures that are waiting to tear their careers apart. Learning this through lunches and meetings with former government employees built the detailed and realistic intricacies that would make The Thick of It a success. And that is the manifesto of Scottish satirist Armando Iannucci. All quotes are colour-coded here to the links and the references, so please feel free to go back in the video and pause to read.